Saransk, the capital of Mordovia. It's one of the poorest republics of the former Soviet Union. It's here that 17-year-old Natasha Demkina lives. People here call her Tuda, a miracle in Russian. Natasha appears to have the incredible ability to see inside the human body. She's been helping diagnose people who otherwise wouldn't get treatment. Many feel her diagnoses have saved their lives. She's now caught the rest of the world's attention, and everyone asks the same question: is her gift real? To find out, Natasha's agreed to be tested by a body of skeptical scientists in the US.
If Natasha really can do what she appears to be able to do, then we need to change the whole of our scientific understanding of the world. If she can't do what she appears to be able to do, well, something's going on. She's either kidding herself or she's fooling other people.
People already come from all over Russia to see Natasha. If she passes this test, worldwide recognition could transform her life. If she fails, her reputation could be ruined, along with the hopes and dreams of the people who've come to depend upon her. Natasha Demkina lives with her mother, Tatyana, and her younger sister, Tanya, in a typical Soviet bloc on the edge of Saransk. But since the age of 10, when Natasha first claimed to be able to see inside people, it was clear her life would be anything but ordinary.
The mechanism of my vision is pretty simple. I have two ways of seeing. The first is normal, like everyone else. The second kind of vision I call medical vision. When the medical vision is switched on, I see general traits. Like when you open an anatomy book, you see the anatomical structure. If I need to examine a particular organ more closely, let's say the heart, lung, kidney or liver, I focus more closely on this organ. I can see all the processes at work. For example, circulation of the blood or respiration. I love to observe it. There is inside us a spectrum of such bright colors. In ordinary life, I've never seen such a combination of colors. You could only perhaps compare it with a sunset.
Natasha says she can see through her patients' clothes and right into their bodies. But she says she's not able to see through objects or through herself. Claims like Natasha's are called paranormal, not explainable by science. In her native Russia, there is a long history of paranormal healers, and most people who come to Natasha readily accept her claims. But there are some, like journalist Igor Monachev, who dismiss these so-called healers as charlatans. He was sent to investigate Natasha's story.
I warned people in advance that, look, if I come back empty-handed, don't be surprised. I came to her small apartment in Saransk, witnessed her seeing her patients.
Stand up, stand up.
What I immediately liked was the lack of theatrical effects on her. She was doing it very simply and easily, it seemed. But that was not enough to be convinced.
He's getting scoliosis in this section of spine.
I apologized and said, Natasha, look, I need to put you to a test. Many years ago, I had a fracture in one of my arms. Can you please detect where? I thought that in a minute I will have no story, because she will fail. Instead, after a minute and a half, she quite assuredly made this gesture on her own left wrist. And I could only say in amazement, you're absolutely right. The reaction of most people, educated people, is still a disbelief. Although people who come to see her as patients have limitless trust in her, and her ability to tell them what's wrong with them.
Присаживайтесь.
This woman had become gravely ill, yet her doctors couldn't find what was wrong with her. So she went to Natasha.
Как объясняла, я что-то тут рубцовая ткань, то есть
Она и сказала, что у меня там...
She examined me and said there are cancer cells in the upper third of the left lung and that surgery was urgently needed. After the operation, I returned to Natasha. She said that everything was done correctly and it seemed the operation was successful.
I can see the body is recovering. It's even putting on weight. The organs inside are starting to feel more comfortable.
Thank you so much.
Get well soon, come over again.
Of course we will come. Where would we be without you? God bless you.
After meeting with Natasha, the doctors did find cancer in the top third of the woman's left lung. She firmly believes Natasha saved her life. Word has spread of her success. Natasha now sees up to 20 patients a night, 5 nights a week. She started asking for donations to help save for medical school and to also allow her family to escape the poverty of her hometown of Saransk, where the average weekly wage is only $27. The healthcare system in Saransk is also poverty-stricken, and its doctors are widely mistrusted. Many of Natasha's patients come to her after the city's hospitals have failed to help them. They see her as their last hope. One patient, named Edek, spent a whole year quarantined in the local tuberculosis hospital. When he failed to get better, he turned to Natasha.
She simply looked at me for several minutes. Then she said it was not a case of tuberculosis. She said, I don't even know the name, but I can draw it, explain it, describe it.
With Natasha's drawing in hand, Edek went to a different hospital in Moscow.
They quickly sent me to a doctor. If I remember, her name was Novikova. She looked through a microscope and said, yes, it's not TB, it's sarcoidosis. Then I told her about the girl in our republic. When I opened the drawing and showed her, she said, I see the same thing, and tell this girl that we call it sarcoidosis.
Natasha's drawing could look like some of the characteristics of sarcoidosis, an inflammation of the lungs that produces tiny microscopic lumps. Natasha's convinced some people of her powers, but now she must travel to the U.S. to meet skeptics who will put her claims to the test. Will her gifts hold up under close scientific scrutiny? Or will the skeptics prove her success is just a combination of sheer luck and the desperate hope of her patients? "17-year-old Russian Natasha Demkina claims she's able to look inside her patients' bodies and that she can actually see their ailments. She and her family are now traveling to the U.S. to put her claims of X-ray vision to the test. As much as Natasha wants her abilities recognized by international scientists, this new level of scientific scrutiny is something she may not be fully prepared for. The scientists assembling in Manhattan to test her are all members of PSYCOP, the Committee for Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal. They've taken on and discredited a number of psychics. They're considered respected academics in this field of study.
My guess is that Natasha, like anyone else, wants legitimacy, wants respect. And if being tested was if she could be tested and succeed, this is going to give her the respect she wants. It's a gamble, of course, because if she doesn't succeed, it's not good for her.
Now, if the claim is genuine, so if Natasha really can do what she appears to be able to do, then we need to change the whole of our scientific understanding of the world. If people really have got these sorts of amazing abilities, science is badly wrong, so it matters. If she can't do what she appears to be able to do, well, something's going on. She's either kidding herself or she's fooling other people. And so there's a fascinating psychology of deception and self-deception to be examined.
It worries her very much. It worries her with all her heart until she's in tears. She holds it back for ages, but at home she starts to cry because of people not understanding her.
My main goal is that people finally believe my gift exists. So I won't have to prove it every time to ordinary people or the medically qualified that this ability exists. So they don't test me every time. To be honest, I'm pretty tired of it. There are always some facts in life that are not easy for us, ordinary people, to understand. I can give you a real example. Here in Paygarm, the Holy Spring helps heal people. I can say that because I tested it myself. I wasn't afraid to get into the freezing water, and all the feelings of pain in my back went away and haven't come back.
Natasha and her family attend an Easter service before she departs for the United States. She regularly goes to church to pray for guidance when her claims are challenged.
Natasha detests being tested. Probably because she's only 17. She only enters the adult world and doesn't understand why people do not trust each other in the world of adults.
It's a 12-hour train ride to Moscow, followed by an 11-hour flight before Natasha will arrive in New York 8 time zones later to begin her testing with Psychop.
Oh, look, Mom, it's beautiful. This is what I'm talking about.
Before Natasha's claims made her famous, a trip to New York would have been beyond her wildest dreams. But now, far from home and without speaking a word of English, the teenager must face her opponents and defend her claims of X-ray vision.
How do you feel about the tests you've got to do in the next few days?
To be honest, I'm not thinking about it. I've put it at the back of my mind. Now I'm full of emotions. I will try. I hope everything will be okay. At least I do want to do my best. Look how beautiful. Fantastic.
For over 30 years, PsyCop's been testing individuals who claim special powers. They believe false claims are dangerous and see their work as a public service. Their opponents say PsyCop's fellows are not objective and are biased against the psychic.
To Natasha's credit, she has engaged with the skeptics. She hasn't gone for the soft option of going to the believers. She's come along to the scientists, to the critics, and say, okay, you design the test, I'll take part in that test, we'll see what happens.
Experimental psychologists Richard Wiseman and Ray Hyman have set up 2 sessions for Natasha. The first one allows her to work on her own terms, using her usual methods. The scientist will observe her success rate.
To me, the big questions are what's going through her head and what's going through the head of her clients. Does she really see something, or does she believe she sees something? Is she confused? It's fascinating.
Natasha will see 6 patients during this first test. The scientists have been briefed on their conditions. Will Natasha be able to diagnose their ailments? The first patient is a fellow Russian.
So from the start, I apologize that I don't know medical terminology yet.
Natasha quickly focuses on the patient's heart.
Secondly, if you look at the heart as a muscular organ, there are certain disturbances. Arrhythmia, which means disturbance of the heartbeat cycle. Especially the left ventricle is beating slower than the right.
The patient's problem is shortness of breath and weak heart muscles. He'd had an ECG, which had detected arrhythmia.
Basically, she pinpointed an issue that's present while eliminating the ones that were iffy.
No, it's unbelievable. It's magic. It's true. Unbelievable.
Natasha's next patient suffers from persistent pins and needles. Natasha mentions problems with his circulation.
Circulation?
Blood circulation, yes. Just to do the massage of this neck area to help blood circulation.
Okay, okay.
The difficulty of testing Natasha is that she's getting a lot of feedback and she's throwing out a lot of different things, which makes life complicated. It means that the more you say, the more things can be likely to be a hit.
Well, in this area, near the ribs, this liver.
I just had high enzymes. My doctor said my enzyme level was very high, and he said it might be due to my cholesterol being high, but he wanted to get the enzyme level down in my liver.
Да, он говорит, что, то есть это то же самое, что мне сказал доктор.
She talked about the liver. I just had a cholesterol problem where my liver was, I guess, a little fatty due to cholesterol. She nailed that. I'm just coming off a cold. She had mentioned my right lung was a little maybe inflamed or whatever. I guess maybe that was the chest cold that I just had. So I was really surprised and happy with the results. I was hoping to be healthier though.
Muscles healed.
This is an impossible thing to pin down the way she operates because she looks at a patient and says, you have something wrong with your lung, and that's true. The patient knows this, and the medical record shows it. That's a tremendous hit. If she says you have something wrong with your lung and the patient denies it, she still has the out. She says, well, oftentimes I find things that the medical profession has missed.
My lower back on the right side.
Or she says it's a condition that's coming, you wait and see. It's very hard for her to be really wrong.
Natasha's halfway through her first day of testing. So far, she's accurately diagnosed the conditions of all the subjects she's seen. How will she perform with the rest? "17-year-old Russian Natasha Demkina claims she can look inside people's bodies and see their ailments. She's come to the U.S. to put her claim of X-ray vision to the test. This patient has suffered from a gynecological condition called endometriosis, and she's worried it's returned. Confirmation from her doctor would require additional surgery. She's asked Natasha to look at her pelvic area, but hasn't explained why.
So this is about your left ovary. I can see this something either is cyst or something with a liquid inside.
Though they can sometimes be benign, ovarian cysts can also be a symptom of endometriosis.
One of the things that bothered me about Natasha was that she was telling them about things they had wrong that they didn't realize had wrong with themselves.
Well, just try to sort it out as soon as possible.
That's frightening, you know, you're putting some stress on people and you get them to worry about things, and worry itself can begin creating problems.
She seemed to find things that I just was not aware of. And I just had a CAT scan on my liver, and not the same as what she said. So I'm a little, doubtful. Let me put it that way. Yeah. She's as sweet as could be, though. She's adorable.
Amazing and disconcerting. Yeah.
I came because I have very frequent migraines almost every day, and she picked up on that right away. She was right on. I thought it was amazing.
The size is all right.
How much of what she mentioned do you think was accurate, was on target?
Well, she said that she didn't actually mention the word migraine, but she said that I have a problem, a vascular problem, and that I tend to get headaches in the front of my head, in my forehead. Also, she talked about the thyroid, and my doctor tested the thyroid back in December because he thought there might be a problem. And the test came up negative, but she said that it was impaired, and that the function was impaired somehow. Okay. So I think I'll ask my doctor about it again.
5 out of 6 people seen by Natasha are impressed by her diagnoses. This appears to be a clear success, but the psychop skeptics have a different explanation.
What's interesting is before we asked them to have the reading, I asked them to tell me what the problem was, and people described different ailments. During the reading, Natasha only mentioned the right ailment to one of those people. So the others were sitting there. Natasha didn't mention what was wrong with them, but still most of them were very impressed. I suspect that what's going on is psychological and has a psychological explanation.
Despite Natasha's success with today's patients, the scientists remain unconvinced. Tomorrow, she'll undergo an experiment especially designed to rule out any ambiguity. It'll be the toughest test Natasha has ever faced. It's the day of the experiment to find out whether Natasha Demkina can demonstrate her claims of X-ray vision under test conditions.
I think when it comes to Natasha, we don't know exactly what's going on. I mean, it could be that she's got great imagery skills. She can look at somebody and create images inside her head and then convince herself that they're coming from the outside world. The other possibility is that she's simply lying to us. She's simply pretending that, yes, indeed, she can look inside somebody else's body. And the third possibility is that she's actually psychic, that she really is doing what she claims to be able to do. I think at the moment, we don't know which of those is actually the case. A big part of the test is ruling out the possibility of fraud. And so you have to say to the claimant, look, it's not that I think that you will cheat, it's just we have to rule out that possibility, and some people can find that very offensive.
Having now seen Natasha at work, the skeptical scientist suspects she gets her information not from X-ray vision, but from what the patients say and how they react to her. Today, the scientist won't allow Natasha to interact with her subjects at all. They will wear glasses to make them unaware of when Natasha is looking directly at them. The scientists also suspect Natasha throws out lots of suggestions to maximize her chances of making the correct diagnosis. Today, she's allowed to diagnose only one condition per patient.
Are they okay?
The test is designed to eliminate lots of the problems which may lead us to think that Natasha is psychic when that's not the case. It involves 7 people, each of which have a different medical problem, and 7 diagnoses. And all she has to do is match one of the diagnoses to one of the people. And then we know from the mathematics of the situation how well she's performed.
The scientists want only the people necessary for the test in the room in order to minimize the possibility of cheating. To Natasha's distress, they decide to exclude her mother and sister. Natasha is allowed to use her usual interpreter, a friend from Russia. PsyCop also have an interpreter present. Medical doctor Andrew Skolnick is also there to help with any medical questions.
Hello. Heard a lot about you.
I would say the main ethical problem, of course, is how do you test her and be fair to her, at the same time be fair to the truth? To be fair to the truth, you want to really set up a very stringent test which eliminates all the possibilities except the paranormal one, that she really can do what she says she can do. To do that, you have to put all kinds of constraints on her and put her under stress.
Natasha is shown the medical conditions she has to identify in the subjects. There are 6 conditions. The 7th subject is healthy. Natasha had been told the conditions would be clear and unequivocal, like an artificial hip. She's unhappy with 2 of the selected conditions. One condition is a missing section of esophagus, and she's concerned it could be different lengths in different people. PsyCop reassures her the section missing is substantial. The other condition is a removed appendix, and Natasha feels post-operative scars could be confusing. She asks if she can revert to her normal method of diagnosis, where she examines the entire body and says what she sees.
We did that, I guess, yesterday.
Yeah, we did that yesterday. You want to be fair to the truth. You want to make her feel comfortable. It's very difficult to do. We had to do a lot of negotiations with her. If you compromise too much, you no longer have a scientific test.
To be successful at the test, she has to score 5 or more correct. So if she scored these 2 wrong, it wouldn't matter. If these 5 were correct, we would still consider that a success.
It's very unusual for me to work in these conditions, and explaining that, well, of course, would be great to work in my kind of.
Yeah, if you did it my way, I would have probably guessed not 5, but 7 of them.
Вась, не забудь, пожалуйста, хорошо? Обхохочешься. Умрешь от расстройства.
Natasha is really putting herself on the line here. Unlike lots of psychics, she's actually saying, yep, come along, test me, do whatever you want, and I'll try and fit around that. So I think it's a very brave thing to do.
Success has been set at 5 or more correct diagnoses out of 7. The odds of just randomly guessing the right condition are 1 in 250.
All right, you can turn around now. She can turn around.
If Natasha gets 5 or more correct, the scientist will admit she has significant abilities. The first case Natasha must identify is the person missing the top third of the left lung. Natasha asks again to hear which portion of lung is missing. Yesterday, she made almost instant verdicts. Today, she's taking much longer. 40 minutes have passed, and Natasha still hasn't made a decision on the person with the missing portion of lung.
You have to finish this before we go on to the next one.
То есть мы должны закончить с этим.
Natasha decides subject number 5 had the lung operation. She takes 1 hour to make her first decision. The next case asks her to detect which patient has staples down the chest from heart surgery.
How's it going?
Very slowly. Now rotation.
The third case is a large metal plate in the head from a brain operation.
Turn around so she can see their left side.
Okay. Turn so she can see your left side.
This isn't the first test of our lives. Sometimes there are misunderstandings between Natasha and doctors, but Natasha never makes a mistake. In 6 years, she hasn't made a single mistake, and God willing, she will never make one.
4 hours have passed since today's controlled test began. She's down to the cases she thought would be the most difficult: a missing appendix and a shortened esophagus. Russian Natasha Demkina's claims of X-ray vision are being put to the test. 4 hours have passed since today's controlled test began. She's down to the cases she thought would be the most difficult: a missing appendix and a shortened esophagus.
The skin, the body regenerates, and
The appendix does not grow back.
No, appendix
No, will not.
Natasha reluctantly makes her last two choices.
One is still available, so that's one is still by limited. She didn't have any of these. These did by limited. Okay, so we're finished at this point, right?
How do you think it went?
Very bad. She thinks.
Badly.
I think no, it's not a success.
Natasha is asked to be present as the results are announced, but refuses to appear at the last moment. The scientists set 5 out of 7 as a pass. Natasha thought patient number 1 had none of the conditions. She was right. She thought patient 2 had no appendix. Actually, she had a shortened esophagus. She thought patient 3 had staples in his chest, and was correct. She thought patient 4 had a shortened esophagus. Actually, he had a metal plate in his head. Patient 5, she thought, had a missing piece of lung, and was correct. She thought patient 6 had a metal plate in his head. Actually, he had no appendix. She thought patient 7 had the hip replacement. She was correct. Natasha scored 4 out of 7.
4 out of 7.
Her odds of just randomly guessing the right condition were 1 in 250. Natasha's results appear impressive, but the scientists are not convinced. If her claim of X-ray vision is true, how, for example, did she miss the metal plate?
So that she got the lungs.
Okay, the results are in. So you scored 4. So you just missed it by 1.
То есть ты немножко, грубо говоря, на границе сейчас.
But it's an interesting result. I think we're dealing with somebody who's perfectly sincere in their beliefs. Somebody who thinks they can do what they appear to be able to do. I don't think there is anything psychic going on. I think in the informal testing, she's throwing out a huge number of options. She's talking about lungs and kidneys and brains and backs and so on. And in the formal test, Yes, she could pick up a few things from people, but you have to remember that she missed some very, very obvious things. So, for example, missing which person had a metal plate in their head. Now, you would think that if her claims were genuine, she'd be able to pick up on that sort of thing very easily. And that's correct. She had the claim, we tested it, she didn't pass the test. It's 4 out of 7.
То есть, грубо говоря, если там где-то...
Ура! Я первая открыла!
Natasha, why do you think you missed the head plate? Tell us about that one.
Talk about the person with the plate. The testers think I was mistaken, and now I realize I wasn't right to an extent. I should have examined deeper, not just a brief look to spot changes, and left it at that.
Natasha will now return home to her town in Russia. The results of the testing were not what she'd expected or hoped for. The scientists have discredited her gift, but will her devoted patients back home feel the same? After going to New York to have her X-ray vision tested by a team of scientists, Natasha Demkina's back home in Russia. Her supporters now deeply regret allowing the skeptics to examine her.
We wanted this documentary to be some sort of final proof. Now I realize it was a mistake. That's why Natasha feels a bit let down, because she wanted the film to prove that she has it in her, to avoid further testing. I'm amazed that the scientists had it as their aim, just one thing, to prove that she's not real.
Natasha's supporters claim the PsyCop team's test was far from definitive. Since she missed a successful outcome by just one choice, her supporters are frustrated with the decision.
I've conducted quite a few of these sorts of tests over the years, and each time the experience is quite similar. It's actually quite a stressful thing to be doing, in part because you're trying to be fair to the claimant, and sometimes you don't fully understand all aspects of that claim. Second, you're trying to keep some, obviously, kind of control over the situation, often under conditions which are really quite difficult and quite fluid. And particularly when it's the first time that's been tested. And suddenly the claimant says, well, actually, I'm slightly unhappy with this. I didn't realize it was going to be like this. So you're trying to negotiate this process. And at the end of the day, both parties normally turn around and argue about the result.
Though they admit the test has its limits, PsyCop are sticking to their conclusion about Natasha. They say her extraordinary gift is actually the power of persuasion.
I think part of what makes this a very compelling performance to watch is that, first of all, she's very young, and she looks especially young. And so you have this young girl coming out with this amazing dialogue, which has medical elements all over it. She'll talk about lungs, and then kidneys, and then bile, and enzymes in the brain, then the back, and then aches, and then pains, and so on. Now, the participant is trying to make sense of all of that, is trying to extract meaning. So what they will do is focus on the parts of the reading which make sense to them and drop out the other parts. And of course, normally she's sitting in front of people that really want to believe. They want to think that, yes, indeed, there's someone who can just look at them and tell them what's wrong with them. We have something which is quite compelling here, something that looks rather strange, almost looks magical, looks paranormal. I don't think there is anything psychic going on, but I can understand why people would believe that.
When Natasha's patients find out her claims have been rejected by scientists, will their beliefs in her abilities be shattered?
Some scientists are close-minded. They say no matter what the evidence, they will not believe in the paranormal. And I think that's a bad thing. But it's also equally bad to say, you know, I'm also close-minded. So it doesn't matter what scientific evidence you present me with, I'm always going to believe these people have an ability. If there are lots of people like that out there, there is always going to be an audience for people like Natasha. And it doesn't matter what we do in terms of testing. It's not about the results. This is about belief.
It's Natasha's high school graduation. Even with all the other events in recent months, she's done brilliantly in her final exams and won a gold medal for her excellent grades.
For the last 3 months, my life has been rather difficult. The tests in America, my exams, and trying for a gold medal. I wasn't too upset about the results of the test. It was its manner and strategy, as I've said, that I didn't really like. But now time has passed. I don't feel so bad. I achieved my first goal, a gold medal. Now I must set a new goal, which I'll be working hard for. First, to be accepted to Moscow University, the medical school. And maybe my second dream will come true, to finish medical school with honors.
My hope for Natasha is that she will grow up and go to medical school like she wants to and become a good doctor and give up this aspect of her life. This is something I hope she grows out of. That's my hope. I don't think it's good in the long run for any of us to be living an illusion.
Natasha has succeeded in fulfilling one of her personal wishes. She's been accepted by Moscow's most prestigious medical school and will begin her degree later this year.
You know, she has a stream of people who do not test her, who just trust her. And she had it for more than 6 years now. People came to Saransk from all over Russia. And they will find her in Moscow because they need her.
In fact, I do believe that Natasha had this gift. I don't listen to what other people think, because I believe she has it, because I have experienced it myself.
I believe Natasha and her diagnosis. I can't answer for other people, but I believe her. From the bottom of my heart, I believe her.